Hello, 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 you guys. Welcome to Life Discussions with Dr. Jefferson. I'm your host, Dr. Jefferson. And today, during this brief interaction, I want to have a conversation with you guys about your biases. I know I didn't type anything in the description that was kind of intentional. Surprise, surprise. I was having a conversation that was motivated by a viewer's content that was sent to me in my email here recently. I was having that conversation last night with one of my co-hosts, Susanna, and we were talking about the biases of people, how we have our own biases and how they shape the way that we look at people around us in society and the people in our lives. Because a lot of times we're very ashamed to say that we're prejudiced about things or discriminatory in the way that we move in life and the people that we accept into our energy center. But the realities are we would not be able to remain congruent nor sane if we were not biased and selective about the people that we allow to be a part of our systems. Okay? Sometimes we just have to be bold enough and brave enough to call a thing a thing. And sometimes we have to learn how to live unapologetically. So I hope that you guys are having an amazing Friday. It is my intention to always convey a positive message to you, but also to have the difficult conversations and introductions to those difficult conversations so that we can be people who are curious about who we are and are becoming, but also so that we can grow and mature appropriately from our life experiences. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get into my intro and play a little bit of that. And then we're going to come back and we're going to have this conversation. Though brief, I want it to be comprehensive. I want to make sure that I cover all of the bases. All right. So I will see you guys in a moment. Okay, so we are back. As I said, I wanted to come through, drop this beautiful ray of sunshine your way, and hopefully brighten your day. But also to ask you guys the overarching question about your biases and how you notice they do or don't show up in the way that you recognize other people and their relationships. Specifically, I want to ask the question about um, the way we see people who are a part of a interracial relationship, um, intercultural relationship versus the people that we look at every single day who are in relationships that look very similar to the ones that we are quite judgmental about. But they look like us. And so we can identify to a certain extent, or so we think. Okay. I was having the conversation initially with Susanna, and then it kind of spiraled. Myself and the producer, we had some pretty engaging conversation around it as well. And we were able to come up with some pretty interesting things. One of the things that the producer mentioned in our conversation that I really, really would like to kind of address is the fact that people who are who look like, right, we have these assumptions about people who look a certain way. So the people who look like us, we can easily assume that, hey, those people are both in a relationship where they have shared dynamics of family of origin or culture, right? Because they're both black or brown people, or they both identify with melanated cultures. We can easily say that we as people looking at their relationship can make that generalized assumption that they are in alignment with one another, very much in alignment with one another. And that's not always the truth. Hey, D'Amicos, how are you? What do you, thank you. What do you think? What are your thoughts about the way your biases present? When you come back, make sure you drop ducats of knowledge as to how you think your biases show up when you're looking at people who are in relationships who look a certain way or look like they're interculture or interracial. Do you think you have any biases at all? And if not, of course, I can share the link too. I want to be under an hour for today's show, though. But so we can make the assumption that people, because they look alike or they look like us, that they share the same types of views, the dynamics and the structure of their relationship is the same as ours. And sometimes we can misjudge their safety in a situation as a result of those biases that we have. Okay. I want to make sure that I bring that to the surface, because for some of us, control looks a certain way. And for other of us, those same things that we see as controlling in our relationships, um, other people don't consider those things as controlling, right? And some of the things that we look at as normative are things that make people fearful in their relationships with other folks. And I think that has to do more so with culture of origin. I think it has to do with subcultural context. If we look at some of the centralized themes or some of the centralized assumptions of Black and brown people, for ages, the Black woman has been known as an angry Black woman. Would you agree? As a male, when you see her out in public and she's pointing or she's loud, frustrated and confused. Yeah. Okay. So what we can look at Black women and we can expect these types of behaviors out of Black women. And as a result of us normalizing this type of behavior, I think that we can misjudge situations where they're actually in need of help or assistance, right? Like, especially because I've had some guys come on to the show and say, well, you know what, if a woman is getting into it with her dude, I'm going to let them have it because I don't want to intervene. She's just going to be back with him, the same dude, after you intervene, end up going to jail for what? So a lot of men don't pay attention to these moments where women are really in need of help and in need of their assistance and protection, in situations where they're engaging in an argument or altercation. And sometimes these men are not their men. We just make the generalized assumption that that's got to be somebody she knows or her dude, just because they look like us. And we're used to these types of interactions between people who are part of the Black and brown community. We're used to those hostile, aggressive types of interactions during disagreements. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Right? And so we can misjudge what that encounter actually is. Maybe this girl really doesn't know this guy. Maybe this guy really doesn't know this girl. Maybe he's stalking her. Maybe she's really in danger. Maybe we missed an opportunity to save somebody. And then when we see that person show up on the news the next day, found in the woods early that morning, what are we thinking?
Yeah.
Right? Here in Atlanta about 3 weeks ago, there was a young lady who made a phone call to 911 as she was being forced into someone's car. Okay? And someone else witnessed it as well and equally called 911 at the same time. The police did not respond immediately, even after the woman called them. And then an hour later, she was found deceased right around the corner, not even a block away. So what does that say? Not only do we as people who are part of the society observing these interactions feel like, okay, well, that might not be something that we need to be worried about. And the person who placed the 911 call was not a person that's in our community. But there were other Black people around. What does that say about the way that we look at our interactions amongst one another versus the way that people from other cultures, other races, look at how we interact with one another and what seems to be threatening and hostile, what seems to be a point of concern? Also, another thing that I noticed and what was the centralized focus of our conversation is the fact that when we're looking at relationships between interracial couples or intercultural couples, we're very quick to judge the structure and dynamics of their relationship. And we're quick to say, oh, that's abusive, or that's person taking advantage of this or that, right? But we don't do that within our own relationships. When we see a Black woman married to a white man, or I mentioned an Indian man or, Hispanic man last night, and we see that man not assisting her in the day-to-day interactions of their children, when we know that the man is physically available to help, right? And he's not making himself emotionally available. We're very quick to judge that woman for going out and dating outside of her race or culture and say, okay, well, that's the type of outcome that she deserves. And he's mistreating her. But we don't say that when it's a Black man in the same situation doing the same thing. You see what I'm saying? In a relationship with a Black woman, it always has to be someone else in order for us to identify it as problematic, suspicious. So I want you guys today to question your biases. I want you guys to tell me what you've noticed on your own without somebody having to tell you, girl, you're being unfair or you're being judgmental. Dude, like, that's unreasonable, right? Without somebody else having to point it out. What are some of the things that you've noticed are your biases? And I want you guys to be very honest. If you don't feel comfortable with sharing the comments on this particular post, excuse me, my water is not in here anymore. It's getting cold. Yeah. But if you don't feel comfortable sharing it here, feel free to send it to my email. Goodness, it's dusty. But so, one of the really important things, I think, thank you, I think is worth mentioning is the fact that the conversation that we had last night was a very interesting conversation due to the fact that we kept the broadcast kept getting interrupted, right? And I feature content all the time on this station. We're always reviewing other people's content, and we're always giving criticism, responses, constructive criticism, having the difficult conversations around the topics, and all of that good stuff, right? But last night's content was accountability towards the LGBTQIA plus community, right? And that was the only thing that was different. Sometimes I feel like the biases of our personal biases, spill over into our professional interactions. So one of the things that was pointed out last night is that you have so many people who are leading from that identified community that sometimes it's really easy to be triggered by the potential for something to shame you or bring you into the light of accountability. And so as a result, it's quick, it's easy, it's a viable solution to silence those people with opinions that don't look like they will align with ours. Which was really interesting to me because I don't have biases towards the LGBTQIA plus community. Quite supportive. So it's interesting sometimes as a person who shows a tremendous amount of support also for the Black community, so many different things, right? To see some of the incongruences and some of the biases that prevent us from stepping into places where we can truly be not only included, but also accepted for who we truly are. If we just allowed our own biases to take a back seat to our interactions so that we can see who we're dealing with authentically. Okay. So, like I said, if you're not comfortable with sharing your perspectives and your insights on your biases and what you've identified as to what motivates you or what biases are there, feel free to send me an email. My email is open. If you guys are viewing this content for the first time, please understand that support is a large component to my being able to continue to bring you content. So even if you're not like a monthly financial contributor, go and click like on the video content and subscribe and hit the notification bell on YouTube. And if you're on Periscope, because I know I've aired this on Periscope now, and Facebook, if you are on either of those channels, bring your support over to the YouTube channel because I'm growing it. And I know I have a pretty large following on my Facebook platform and my Twitter platform and things like that and IG. But I do want you guys to kind of bring that over so we can continue to not only explore this content, but to expand and get this platform to the point where we can do monetized videos and you know, short videos and edit them and bring them in on topic only. Right. So that's all that I have. Wishing you guys well. Hopefully you guys have a collaborative effort in conversations, you know, to identify some of your biases and welcome the perspectives of other people, and so that you can explore them deeper and find out if that's the thing that you need to call a thing, right? And just because you have a bias doesn't mean you need to change them. Okay? Some biases keep us healthy. They also help us create boundaries. So keep negative energy out of our circle. Okay. So go out there, live free, be great, be the best version of you that you can be unapologetically. Big shout out to the chat. I really appreciate the support. Goodness, I don't have COVID. Okay. It's allergies. But that is all that I have, you guys. Go out there, be positive, have a great weekend. And if you cannot be a positive impact on somebody else's life today, try not to impede on their peace and tranquility. So I look forward to your feedback. See you guys later. Bye.
Who alive can't put me in a box. I redefine any definition you got. I am the tiger, I'm making steps to the top. The flames, I'll rip it up, you just gotta hand me the rock. Take a seat, you cannot stand it. All I know, the flow harder than a scotch bunny. Don't try studying me, you cannot manage. This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon. This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon.